Hello and welcome to week 11 of the ARK development kit. In this week we're going to talk about how to set up some of the small rocks that you run around and pick up, as well as finishing this island. Off screen I went ahead and added some of the dirty work to get all of these foliage things that we need to add to our game, but I paused because I had gotten a question in the past about how to do some of the smaller rocks, the clutter rocks that you can pick up with your hands prior to getting a pickaxe, so you can hit the big rocks. So this is something now I wanted to show people how to import. So we have to find the small rocks to start with, but perhaps the fastest way to do that is to come up here to our search bar, and we're just going to search for pickup. And here we'll see that we have foliage settings as well as blueprints, sound cues for all the different pickups of things that we might need. So we need to find pickups of pebbles, rocks, things like that. These are things that you're going to be picking up with your hands, so they'll have a different setting. So if I go ahead and open up this SM foliage setting and come down here to clustering, we can see that there is a damage FX to spawn emitter. This is pickup rock harvest emitter, which means that when we come down here to collision, we don't have a collision with it. We can just come up to it. We can hit E or F, whatever you have it bound to interact with the rock and pick it up. Now that we have this open, we can see where the location of the pebble that it uses for clutter is. So we go to game, and then it's an Aberration environment fertile chamber. So Aberration environment fertile chamber, and then it's in vegetation, foliage, clutter, vegetation, foliage, clutter, rocks. And here we have our SM_2 clutter static mesh. So just like before, we're going to drag this up here. And we have our thing. We're just going to select this SM_pebbles2 clutter settings, import it, and then we're going to need to open it. So we don't actually need this clutter settings because that's how you import it, so you can't pick it up. But we're going to import it so we can pick it up. So we're going to use this SM_ext pebbles that has the pickup imported. So we go to our instance settings, and just like before, we're going to replace this, otherwise it's not going to appear on the map again. And then we're going to come down here to pickup once this loads. And sometimes it can take a while because the engine loves to freeze and all that jazz. Alright, so now we're going to come up here to where we do a pickup rock harvest emitter, meaning that we can come up to it, hit E. We need to change a few of these components. So the max scale for an attached component is 5. Max instances per cluster is 15,000. We should never really get to that, but you know, 20,000. We scroll down a little bit, and we're going to get a rock harvest component. And this is just a way that they dictate how much you get per harvest. So you can have extra, less, but the standard is just rock harvest component. There could be rock harvest component, less rock. You see it a lot more on the trees. They want you to have stumps that give you less wood versus full-on trees, which will give you more wood, so on and so forth. So it has no destroyed mesh. It does have a walkable floor, but it's less than a player, so you should be able to walk over it. It's not a falling tree. We don't need to cull it. And we need to have no collisions, so we should be good all the way down here. All right, so if you come down to foliage, we should see that we only have 2 things. That's okay. We did all our work in the persistent level. What we can do is come down here to this drop list. We have 2 levels loaded right now. We have A1 and foliage A1 in the persistent level. And the reason we do it on the persistent level is so when we're making the second island, we do, you know, A2 near, A2 far for foliage. We're going and we're going to import everything from the persistent level onto that, so I don't have to set up foliage every single time. So in this case, we're copying everything from the main level. We've selected everything, and we're going to take it to foliage A1, and we just hit copy to selected level. Let's say, yeah, you sure you want to do this? Yes, I'm sure. Then we come down here to foliage A1, and we should have everything here. So now that we're on our foliage level, we're going to try to add some of these small rocks and see that they work. So do pebbles. We can see that we added these small rocks, and we might need to decrease the density of that just a little bit up here. Let's put that density pretty low. We still want players to be able to come along the beach and find them and stuff like that, but we don't want necessarily a ton of them lying around. And keep in mind that these will respawn. It's not like these are the only ones in the game forever, so we can be pretty conservative with how many we place. We can even add in some of the things that we know will be in here. So I'm not going to put this bush in here yet, but we know that there's sometimes logs and rocks on the beaches. So this is one of the logs that I've added. I might save this one for the forest. Yeah, I'll probably save that one for the forest. So let's just go up here, select this guy, lasso. I think he's there, but he's not there. Yeah, that's just an editor glitch. So we have some of these rocks here, and if we hit play and lag out our game for a while, we could run down and pick them up. But we're going to do a few things just so we can test them all out at the same time without having to stop, start, and all that jazz. Alright, now that we've saved, I want to select some of the palm trees that we've imported. I've imported quite a few. We have all of them. We're going to go to our paint, and we're going to have a slightly bigger brush size, something in that range, something in the range of 1,000. I'll make it 1,000 even. And we're going to see what happens. So we have pretty standard beach assets here, I think. Bump down the density, bump up the size, and we get things that we would place along a beach normally. And then we're going to add just a few rocks. Just to give that sort of realism of the beach. And then at the very back, we are going to add a few bushes, and we should be able to test things out and see if we're getting everything that we wanted. Ooh, that is way too many bushes. Let's lower that density even more, lower that size. You notice as we go far away, this is an interesting Unreal Engine tidbit. As we go far away, it'll convert meshes such as environmental meshes to 2D texture. So if we look at these trees, that's a 2D texture. If we look at these bushes, we have this like strange little semi 2D texture, but as we get closer to them, they'll pop out into 3D. It's just a mod level loading thing that the Unreal Engine does. So we've added some of these bushes. They should all be set up. So now let's go ahead and save, and we're gonna hit play, and we're gonna run down and test picking up the rocks, punching the trees, hitting the bushes, and make sure that before we go ahead and do the entire island, we have everything set up so we can not have to go back and redo everything. We implemented the sky but not the weather, so everything right now is base default freezing. As we get into weather, we'll go through and implement that. But I've set up infinite stats, so it's not really an issue outside of the noise. So here we'll come up to the bush. Make sure that when we hit E or F, whatever you use, we harvest, we see we're getting berries. Can't punch the rocks. As with before, we can punch the trees. The rocks are not working, so we'll need to check those settings. But everything else seems to be working. I got wood out of that. Let me find more of the rocks just to... Yep. Okay, so we need to double check the rocks, but everything else appears to be working. So let's take a look at the small pebbles. Foliage setting. So we did not replicate this. I swear we did this. Well, I guess we're doing it again. Our damage, we're going to have pickup, rock harvest emitter, max instance per cutter is 15,000, max cluster radius is 20,000, and our max scale is 5. Doesn't have a destroyed mesh, it's not a falling tree, it has no other meshes. Have no collision, just like the bush. Okay. So let's test this out again. Take out the bush. We're going to paint this much closer to the player spawn. So we're just going to run over to double check that we've reset the settings on the rocks, and when we come up to them, we should be able to hit E and pick them up. Yep. So just like in ARK, you can run around and pick up the small rocks. And that's good. That's what we wanted. So now we should have everything that we need to set up some of the beaches all the way around the island. I just need to lasso select the small rocks and delete them because they are the improper small rocks from before. So I've removed all the small rocks from the beach. We need to place them back in with the paint. Now using the new method that actually works. And we'll eventually add more clutter rocks. It's just a sort of once pass over to get everything to the point where it's working. Again, I'm going to select none and do my trees as one group. So So we need to add some more bushes to these. We're going to add some clutter grass to go along with our bushes while we do this. Different bushes. Clutter rocks. So we're getting the beaches to a point where I'm fine with how they look. It's not super realistic, but that's really sort of how ARK does it. And I want to show how we might go about doing a jungle scene because it's a little more dense. And you'll see up here I've sort of created like a different material because that's where I want the dense part of the jungle to be. So let's hop into that. So first things first, I want to select none around the outside near as we get closer to the beaches. I want to have some dead logs and things just sort of scattered around. Maybe not that many. And then we're going to select our tree. And we're going to increase our density and our size. We're getting more and more trees. And of course, as we get to the denser part of the jungle, we want there to be more and more trees in the denser part of the jungle. So then as you're a player running through, it looks more dense. We also want rocks and pick up rocks, as well as clutter grass. I almost forgot. Take off the big rocks here. And drop the density a bunch because we're doing pick up rocks and clutter grass. That would be really, really awkward to have that many things. We can even drop our rocks off and just do the grass, and we can even pump up that density. But what we really don't want to do is have hundreds of polygons of rocks that you can pick up everywhere in the jungle. That's pretty bad. Scroll this down so we move sort of about the same pace as a person in ARK. So I'm sort of liking how this feels. The smaller grass on the bottom side with the trees all around it. You can see rocks. This is something that I like. We might add a couple more trees and a couple more rocks. So I'm going to do that real quick and I'll be right back. And we're back. I added a few more trees to my selectable types. I'm just going to add in some of them now, just to add a little bit of diversity in the forest. And as we come up here into the forest line, I'm intentionally trying to leave some of this base part out here a little more sparse because I want it to be like a gradual entering the forest. I added also some larger trees from Aberration. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I really want to use them, but they do provide good cover for spaces that have large uphills. So the smaller trees can't actually go on the large uphills depending on their scale. That's why you can't like place a tree on the side of this mountain. I mean, you can with this one, but like if I selected just the tiny one and not the big one, I can't place it here. It has to do with the scale of the tree. So let's add a few more pebbles here. Need that many. And then we're going to add some of the bushes for berries to go inside the forest. And we'll see what it looks like when we play through this. Because this should be... pretty decent. Alright, so let's hit play and we're going to run over and see what it's like. Alright, so let's get this out of the way. And we should see some of these trees are pretty big. But it should give us a pretty decent jungle-esque feel. I might need to add some more bushes and textured grass here. Overall, I'm sort of liking how that feels as a jungle area. I'll probably add more trees here. I don't know why there's a little bit of a gap. But I think that's where we'll stop for today. I hope this has been helpful as sort of seeing how some of the more, I guess, traditional workflow goes when you're creating islands after you've set up all of this stuff. If you have any questions, please let me know. As always, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. It really does help us out. And hopefully we'll see you next week.